Yes. Yes.
Here comes the boss. Now we be on task.
I thought we got the
Mark, you ready?
Mark's here, we're good.
Can we call the August 8th board meeting to order? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Ms. Nazario.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Here.
Ms. Washington.
Here.
Mr. Ferguson.
Present.
Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the true flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Recognition of visitors? None?
Bambi's here and she brought friends.
Okay. Before we have the first hearing of the public, I want to read a statement. I want to share a quick word tonight to many students, their families, and members of the community in attendance tonight in anticipation of the board resolution in opposition to any divisive concepts, legislation including House Bill 322, House Bill 327, and House Bill 616. In particular, I want to thank you for this very visual reminder that these laws are about much more than the hot topics in the news today. But they're about people. They're about our children. Please know that board meetings, by design, are not conducive to deep conversations between large groups of people. As a result, during the public comment section, we typically do not respond. Instead, we listen. Therefore, please don't misinterpret our silence as anything other than listening. For those here tonight and those watching from home, please know that we will be learning, we will be leaning into these discussions more deeply with our faith-based leaders with the intent of sharing what is and isn't being taught in our schools. Through it all, we will endure. All our children know they are respected, valued, and loved in Lorain City Schools. We look forward to sharing additional information as those conversations take place. With that being said, we'll have the first hearing of the public.
Good evening, board members, community members. I'm Julie Garcia. I am the president of the Lorain Teachers Union. I am a community member, graduate of Lorain City Schools. We know that the board supports the teachers in this initiative, and we are saddened by members of the community attempting to turn Lorain schools into an unwelcome learning environment for the community that we serve. Many of our students rely on their teachers to feel safe and accepted and look to them for guidance during turbulent times. This resolution isn't about teaching students how to be gay, turning students gay. It's a resolution to protect the teachers and allow them to have open and accepting conversations with students about difficult and important topics in an age-appropriate way. Punishing educators for having these conversations sends the message that LGBTQIA students are not valued, seen, or wanted in our schools, a place that for many is the only safe place they know. Many LGBTQIA students face danger, hate, and fear of retaliation for being their true selves, even within their own homes. They often see schools and trusted teachers as a second home that is the only place that will protect them. Bills that attempt to ban the discussion of supposed divisive topics could also have a negative effect on the education profession, which is already facing a recruitment crisis. At a time when it has become increasingly difficult to attract new and diverse educators to our classrooms, some Ohio lawmakers are sending the wrong message to the state's education workforce. To ensure adequate staffing levels for our students to receive a world-class education, we want Lorain City Schools to recruit the best and the brightest candidates. This resolution will send a message that Lorain City Schools is a safe and welcoming environment for all students and educators. School is meant to be a place where students learn and experience different cultures, peoples, and opinions. We want our students to be well-rounded individuals who form their opinion and beliefs, and while not everyone will always agree, we aim to foster an open environment that gives everyone a voice. Oppressive and uninformed rhetoric is the same rhetoric that was historically used to breed prejudice, fear, and hate towards communities of color. Lorain is and always has been a unique community, and we take pride in the fact that we are made up of different ethnicities, backgrounds, creeds, and orientations, and we should strive to continue to do this for all people. The LEA remains staunchly opposed to all forms of discrimination on the basis of one's race, color, age, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion, or disability. Thank you.
Former busing coordinator.
Sorry, I'm writing all this information.
Take your time, Cindy.
Thank you. Okay, good evening, members of the Board of Education and visitors, parents, teachers, and other people who are here this evening. My name is Cindy Kramer. I'm a longtime Lorain resident, and I'm also a Lorain High School alumni. I have 30 years plus education in school transportation. I was a member of the Ohio State Board of Transportation, and I came this evening to speak to the board about several concerns that I have, and some other people have asked me to come and speak and express my concerns and either get questions or answers this evening from the board. Before I begin, I just wanted to check with the superintendent to see if he might be discussing anything later in the agenda regarding the busing situation, because I don't want to take time if you have some answers and you're going to be
Not
saying
much.
anything. We're good? Okay. I'll try not to be too long. But I have a lot of people have been calling me, so I have several questions here. One of the biggest questions and concerns that I know that has been raised throughout the community is the fact with the company coming in and the problem with maybe there might not be enough buses ready to transport the children to Lorain schools. I read and did some investigating because I have a little experience in this regarding getting the buses inspected by the state. If you don't know, the State Highway Patrol has trainers and inspectors who take care of those things, and that is set up periodically anywhere from June until August before a school district starts with the kids. I worked for Lorain City Schools at one time when there was busing and we had contracted it out. So the way that we did it is a little bit different. I understand that from when it's being done now. But my concern is that the company has come in, and I see there's a lot of buses in the parking lot, but they've come in and there are a lot of buses that have not been inspected because they said that they didn't know the rules and regulations in the state of Ohio for the buses. If that's not true, I apologize, but that's the feedback I'm getting. And that concerns me because being a 30-plus educator in the state of Ohio and working for 8 different school districts in the state, every school district whether it's the transportation director, the superintendent, maybe the assistant, or board members, know what the rules and regulations are for the buses. It's not a secret. Ohio has it all mapped out, exactly what can and cannot be done with the inspection. I understand this bus company is from Cincinnati, which, as far as I know, Cincinnati is still a city in the state of Ohio, so they should know what the rules and regulations are to get the buses up to par and get everything approved to be passed. It is a process. It takes a while. I understand that because I've worked through it. But here you are a week to 2 weeks before school is going to open, and you don't know what's going to happen. I also understand that some buses have been purchased, and I believe it's a figure about $2 million that was purchased or used to purchase some buses. But there's been no explanation. Are those road ready? Are those going to be available? I have questions about the routes. Have the routes been worked on? Is there a liaison person who works with Lorain City Schools and be working with the subcontractor? That's the way it was done years ago when I was here. It's not done that way all throughout the state of Ohio. But my concern and those of others is if those routes are done, great, yay, hooray, at least routes are done and buses will be sent out. If they're not done, that's another concern that I had, because in my working over the years in transportation, I was a 12-month employee. I worked the whole entire summer. Some districts like that, some don't. But if I didn't work a 12-month in one of my districts, I came in for the month of July. I took some vacation in June, maybe in May. I stretched it out because July is the month when you get the routes done. As soon as August 1st comes, you need to have those routes ready for the parents, so the parents know where their kids are going to be. If you're using routes that you've used through past years from wherever it might be throughout the city, those are okay, but what about your new kids? What about the new little kids, kindergarten kids who are coming in? What about your special ed kids? Do you have special buses ready for them? Do they have wheelchairs? Do they have seat belts? Do they have any aides that are going to be on the buses with them? There's a lot of questions that haven't been asked, and since I kind of know a little bit about it, I was asked to come and put these concerns and questions to the board and try to find out what's going on, because parents are really concerned. I haven't met any parent who is mad or angry or ready to yell and scream and holler and carry on. That'll happen when school starts and the buses don't show up. Because I remember getting those 300 calls a day and working until 9 or 10 o'clock at night trying to answer those questions for people. It's the same everywhere through the state of Ohio. But you need to have competent people who know the rules, know the laws, know what your plan B action is going to be, because you had a plan A that didn't come to par. So you need to want to set those kinds of things up. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to give you information I might have and maybe advise you, or at least write some things down if you're not familiar with what's going on. Busing is a whole nother animal compared to the education and those areas when you're teaching your kids and the teachers stepping in and educating them. So please think about some of those concerns. I really don't know what you're going to do now, because I'm afraid it's going to be a big fiasco, and I feel bad because I know it doesn't have to be that way. As I said, I've worked in 8 different school districts in the state of Ohio, all by choice, because I was asked to come. Can you come help? Can you fix this? And I liked living in different school areas. I loved it when I worked down close to Columbus, because I could go to all the Ohio State games and my husband could come down, and that was great. But it's really important. If you don't know anything about transportation, please try to find out. It's not just a thing where the bus comes down the road and picks up the kid, and if you're not there, the bus is going to take off and leave you. There's so much more about this that you really need to know. So please find that out. The other thing I was interested in is if the school district is going to do the routing, if they have already, or if they are doing the routing. If they're not, is the contractor that you've hired, are they in charge of the routing? And do they have a software program? When I first started in transportation over 30 years ago, maybe closer to 35 or 40, we didn't have software programs. We were still doing it the old hand way, where I had maps all over my whole office and I had to put little pins and I had to route things and do it that way. There are software programs out there that are very, very reasonable. Training is simple. It's a piece of cake. I used to have my granddaughter teach me how to work my iPhone because I had no clue. So it's not that difficult. But that's something important. That's key in today's world, and with technology, you need that. Maybe I'm talking about it and you already do. I don't know. But it's just something that I think is very, very important. Special ed concerns me. That was always my top priority, working with a special needs supervisor, because those buses have to be equipped by need. They need aids. When you switch with companies, some companies don't realize that. They don't get into the aspect about what is wrong with this particular child, what does this particular child need, what are the aspects that go into that. They're just bringing you the buses, and they're not, a lot of them aren't equipped for this. So I know I'm probably coming a day late and a dollar short with all of these concerns, but because I just read about this and heard about this within the last week, I just wanted to come forward and see if there's any questions that you have or you need, because there's a lot of people who are concerned and really want to try to be helpful with this. The other thing regarding the drivers, I saw down at the old Westgate Shopping Center on 21st Street, there is a big sign, and the company has gone in there and they're recruiting bus drivers. $21 an hour is outstanding to be paying your drivers. I've worked in some districts where they make 30 or 35, but that's their business and what they do. What my other concern is, are these people they're going to be hiring, do they need to be trained? They can't be trained in a week. They can't be trained in 2 weeks. Sometimes it takes a good 6 weeks for them to be trained. They have to have a CDL license with school bus driver assistance necessary for that. So there's a lot. Maybe they'll get lucky and there'll be other drivers who will come from some of the other schools that are around here and they already have their license. But please be diligent about this. Just because you hire a person with CDL license with Class B endorsement doesn't mean they're road ready. They need to take a test. They need to have a physical. They need a drug and alcohol test, or else they're not eligible to drive in the state of Ohio. Same thing for your van drivers. I understand there might be some purchasing of vans. I was fortunate enough to work down in Columbus in my one school district, and I served on the State Board of Transportation, and I helped write the rules and regulations for bus transportation in vans. The majority of the vans are used to transport special needs kids or for special programs that might go on in different buildings throughout your district. You have to follow those rules. They need to take a test. The license is good for 6 years once you get it. But again, you need to be drug tested. You need to have a physical and alcohol testing. And all of your drivers, whether they're bus or vans, need to attend 3 safety and in-services a year for transportation. Those have to be filed through the state. Now it's done on computers, so you just go in and you file all of it, just like you do all your state reports. I know a lot of you are familiar with your state reports. You just go in and boom, 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 you're done. But you have to watch what you do with the drivers. There's a lot of great drivers out there, but you need to pay a little bit of attention. Those are my concerns and some of the people that I know, and I have a lot more, but I'm not going to go on with more because I think you kind of get what I'm saying. Okay, so I'm here if you have any questions, or if I hope to see something come up in the newspaper that's going to help with the busing, because I hate to see you open school. And I think special ed is starting early, or maybe it's the younger kids. I can't remember what I've read exactly in the paper, but I hope you're ready, because otherwise it's going to be really difficult.
Thank you. I hope we are too.
Thank you.
Just wanted to remind everybody that traditionally we give 3 minutes to speakers. I'm giving a little leeway tonight, but if you could keep it around that time.
Maybe we could move the sign-up sheet so people could sign in before they get to the podium.
Hello. My name is Regan Amler. I am a teacher here at Lorain High School. I've taught around the state of Ohio for 6 years, and I've spent about a year here at Lorain. Through this year, it's become my home. It's been kind of the school that really has made me feel heard, accepted, loved, and valued. And I just really want to let everyone know that although I've been here for a year, unfortunately, my boyfriend lives in Brook Park, so that's where we're living. I am Lorain is also my home. It's my work home. It's the place I go to be with my students and kind of try my best to make sure they turn into great people. One of the things we kind of have to do in order for them to be great people is teach them about people that are different than them. Whether it's a different religion, a different gender, a different sexuality, or a different race, or the other millions of things that they could have. That's something that we need to talk about. A lot of times, these kids that are in these marginalized groups have to deal with a lot of things that are really not okay. In my class, part of my sophomore curriculum was to read Of Mice and Men. And Of Mice and Men, the character Crooks is a black man working on a farm. He is almost exclusively referred to as the M-word. And his name is also Crooks because they beat him so much that his back is crooked. That is something that can be very difficult for children of color to read, to know that that is truly something that not even just during slavery, but even during the 1930s and 40s was still something that was happening in our country. It makes them uncomfortable, and they will always feel uncomfortable seeing that word read on the page, knowing that that's how people were treated. Curly's wife doesn't have a name. She's not important enough to have one. Her name's Curly's wife, because she's only defined as her relationship to a man in this text. And while that may make us women feel uncomfortable while reading it, we read it. And to me, hearing that there are people out there that refuse to allow children to read books about a gay person's experience, or to, in Texas, call slavery involuntary relocation to kind of numb the word and make it sound less bad than it really was, that's really upsetting that people can be so intolerant to me. I can't believe that somebody would feel that way, allow kids to read books like Of Mice and Men or Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, where these characters are hurt for who they are, and make other kids feel uncomfortable because it's apparently important to American literature, which it is. But we should also be reading books that are important to American literature from other people that are not just white men, John Steinbeck, who have a story to tell that is something that is not just a white man's interpretation of a historical event that happened. And to me, hearing these bills like 616, HB 327, they really not only just upset me, but they offend me as a teacher, that people would truly believe that something that I would do is to force your child to believe anything that they don't besides just acceptance. You don't have to, I talk about neutrality in my class. You don't have to love the person next to you. You don't have to be the nicest person ever. You have to be neutral. If you don't appreciate those types of experiences, it's not my job to tell you not to. What it is my job to tell you to be neutral to that other person. You don't believe in gay people, whatever. You have that religious aspect of your personality. You don't have to be obsessed with gay people the next day and watch all of these gay movies and be perfect. But what you should do is be neutral. Don't talk to them about any of this stuff if you don't feel comfortable. And I really think that that's an important thing that our kids need to learn, and to silence other voices, silence other people in our community that identify in very different kinds of diverse places. That just upsets me. And thank you for opposing HB 616. It is appreciated for me as a staff member to know that that's where our school district is taking us, that we're on the right path of acceptance and not of kind of shoving down anything that we don't want to hear. So thank you guys so much. And thank you to the kids that are here. You rock.
Got to write our names, right? My name is Bartholomew Gonzalez. I am a Southview alumni graduate from class of 95, born and raised in Lorain. I was a typical Lorain kid. I thought, oh my gosh, I just want to get out of here. I was like, Lorain doesn't have anything to offer, and so I joined the Navy. I joined the Navy and had the best experience in the world. And it wasn't until I realized, after experiencing what the rest of the world had to offer, this is the best place you can ever be when you realize the reality of what the world is actually like. And so I'm coming with experience. I'm coming with a heart of 100% working together, because this has been the international city, not because of the fact that it's titled the international city, but because we have had so many different groups of people learn to work together where I did not experience that anywhere else I've been. I've traveled to Singapore, Japan, Thailand, Hong Kong. I've seen what it looks like when people have tried something and it's failed. I was like, and so I'm coming with that to start off because that's my personal experience. I was like, now, this resolution, we're not here to highlight that and talk about it. We just disagree that it wasn't written by us, for us, to relate to us. It was taken from somewhere else because it worked in somewhere other place. And we're not against it, we're not ready for it right now. School is about to start. It hasn't been communicated. It hasn't been talked about. We did not sit down to make it up for ourselves so that we can say what it should look like for Lorain, not Toledo, not Columbus, not anyone else. I'm not disagreeing with everything that they're saying. I was like, we're not here to go against you. We're here to work with you. We don't want to be that school that shows up on the news just because everyone else is doing it. We're here to make our community better. And so do I disagree with House Bill 616? From what I've read in the last 3 weeks, because I've done a crash course, it's not bad. I don't see anywhere in there. It just listed other things that were considered hate speech. And some of the things that we're talking about today were in that list. But it's not what everybody says it is. And so I'm a little confused when I went and I read it, why everybody's making this big commotion. The only thing we want done today is the resolution that's on the table, hold off. Because what we've noticed as a group is that there are other issues that we want to focus on. And so for us, we just want to be here to let you know that we're here, that we have a voice and that we want to make a difference. And we're representing not only ourselves, but we want to represent our community because we want to work with you guys. We want to work with the community. We want to, I met with a lot of people in the last couple of weeks because we're all on the same page, but there's a disconnect. And so for us, I want to be, not for us, for me, I don't want to be reactive and do something because we have to do something. I want to be proactive and fix it so we don't have to come back and do it again. That's the goal. And so as a community member, I'm going to say hold off today and let's just put it on hold. Lorain City Schools, we're getting ready to start. I was like, I know we have other policies and procedures in place, the anti-bullying policy, that I think we should look at. We should encourage. We should keep on making that better. And so we weren't here to oppose it. We're here to get more ideas so we can work together. And so from my standpoint, even though I read a couple of the stuff, and that I'm not going to sit here and represent another group of people. I can only say from my experience, there's just too many questions still. There's too many holes. And I can't move forward and encourage it. I can't suggest that we do this and run it through just because of a time limit. That's my only concern. And so in the meantime, I would love to sit down and talk with people I haven't met yet, just so I can get on the same page with you so that we can understand how to move forward. And so, thank you.
Appreciate your passion. Feel like it's point counterpoint.
Not sure if it's working or just need to get closer because it's hard to hear in the back with your mics too. So just thought I'd let everyone know. Am I okay? Can you hear me? Okay, good. Okay. My name is Mary Miller. I'm also a 1995 Southview High School graduate. Bart and I were not in the same class because I graduated a year early, but we have lots of the same friends and you know, similar ideas, I would say, when it comes to most things. However, this is not a new problem. The resolution that's on the table tonight is really just pushing back on things Columbus and nationally that have occurred. There's obviously been a movement brewing where, people should get out and fight their school boards and, no CRT and all of the buzzwords and the things that people like to latch onto, sometimes without better understanding of why these issues come about or why you have to push back on them. And the current board obviously been voted in by the public from, our citizens chose you to represent us in what we feel is right. So, you made it to the table. You were there because we put you there. And thanks to some actions of several people in the district, you now have that option to work with the superintendent, the board, the community. Prior to that, we were left with, one person in charge. And so, it's great that we can have this now. It's great that we can do this. We can work together. But we have to protect our students, and that's everyone who walks in the door. We're not saying who they are and what they are. They're coming to the door. And we have to say, you're safe here, you're welcome here. We're not going to allow for people, to persecute you, regardless. So that's my sort of take on this. It is ambiguous, and I know some of the resolution states that. There isn't, in House bills, the House bills listed, they're not particularly clear on what, the stipulations might be. No one's adding anything to my, understanding. We're not adding content. We're not adding, curriculum that's directly in opposition of these bills or these groups who, it's nothing new that we're doing tonight. This is just reiterating how we feel and what we're going to provide for our students. And I, for one, having 2 kids in the district and having many other family friends and children I've coached coming, up through the district and going to high school and middle school where it's very rough for them regardless. So let's not add any other obstacle or, feelings of hate is really the only word I can kind of come to, put on this. So totally support the resolution, and time is of the essence. If there was time to work on things, that would be fine, but it has to be done there, before this resolution or before the House bills are voted on in Columbus. So we'd love to have all the time in the world to work on things, but sometimes you just have to work with what you're given. So thank you for working with what you're given, and have a great evening. Thank you.
My name is Tanika Pozic, and I'm actually just going to read what was given to me. It's on behalf of a friend of mine. Her name is Desiree Shores. So I'm just going to read. I know we have 3 minutes, so I'm going to try to read it quick. Good evening, Desiree Shores. She is a parent of 2 Lorain High students and a member of this community. Just want to speak to you tonight with the request that you not vote to ban HB 616 that is up for vote. I apologize, I'm so nervous. In the Ohio Senate. As someone who has been a full-time child care provider for most of the past 7 years, to 8 children, none of whom are her own, she can say that none of the children understood anything about heterosexual love and relationships. Whether it was the kids with both parents in the house or just a single parent, the kids never asked about relationships between men and women or the lack thereof. If children that young aren't thinking about the heterosexual relationships right in front of them, they aren't thinking about the homosexual ones either. She put my own children at grade levels K through first grade, had an aunt that was in a relationship with another woman. They would visit with their aunt, spend the night with her cousins, spend a lot of time with their aunt and her partner. Never once did they ask why the house looked different than theirs, didn't inquire. And her kids really do like asking questions. They weren't thinking about heterosexual or homosexual or bisexual or pansexual or whatever the preferences are. They were just enjoying the people in their lives. And they loved them and they trusted them. And I'm sure there are a lot of people in this room who have their own varying opinions and strong convictions about both sides of the bill. So if she were here, she would stand before you and say that she is a sister of a once bisexual and an aunt of a pansexual nephew, the cousin of a transgender man, and a pansexual woman and a friend of multiple members of the LGBTQ community. I stand before you as a Christian. I am a Christian too, but she is a Christian as well. My Christian faith tells me to love my neighbors as I love myself, and to do unto others as I would have them do unto me. I live by those golden rules, and I show respect and honor and protect the dignity of every person when I come in contact with them. I'm not here because I don't think we should say gay to our kids or that they shouldn't be taught lessons that are relevant to the world that they're being raised in. A world that is very different than the one even I was raised in, and can only imagine and look at the different generations here today. But our children are growing up in a world where they have to go through lockdown drills and fear of not making it through school, a school day alive. That's making me emotional. I have 2 children of my own, so sorry. They're living in a system that overloads them with standardized tests and often pays more attention to the statistics than the children themselves. And a system that keeps cutting funding to the arts, where many of them were born to thrive. And they live in a society that constantly bombards young people with images of what they should look like, what they should wear, who they should be, and tells them how many views they get affirms their worth as a human being. In a world full of the pressures of social media and ever-changing political and social climates, why can't we just allow them to be innocent for as long as they can? When so many children enter kindergarten behind in reading skills, and we as a district are still pulling ourselves out of the hole we have been in for so long and struggling to just achieve attendance goals, why is the focus on being allowed to teach sexual orientation to the little ones is even a conversation? HB 616, as it currently stands, isn't saying we can't say gay, as so many divisive headlines state. It is saying let the kids be kids and start teaching them these subjects when they become developmentally relevant and appropriate. Those years between preschool to third grade should be focused on the foundations of education. At fourth, fifth, sixth, 7, 8-year-olds, the majority of these children aren't thinking about orientation, gender preferences, or preferred pronouns, and they shouldn't be. They should be learning to read, write, and to master basic math skills. They should be learning how to make friends, follow a routine, respect authority figures, and follow the rules. Why open the doors and add confusion where it doesn't need to be? I understand and completely agree with having those conversations with the older students and addressing these issues as the children mature, become more aware of themselves and the world around them. HB 616 currently leaves room for that to be done. However, our responsibility to these young people is not just about what they are taught and when, but also what we protect and shield them from and when. With that said, I'd like to close by reading a short excerpt from The Hiding Place, the triumphant story of Corrie ten Boom, a Holocaust survivor. And so seated next to my father in the train compartment, I suddenly asked, "Father, what is sex sin?" He turned to look at me as he always did when answering a question, but to my surprise, he said nothing. At last he stood up, lifted his traveling case off the seat, and set it on the floor. "Will you carry it off the train, Corey?" he said. I stood up and tugged at it. It was crammed with the watches and spare parts he had purchased that morning. "It's too heavy," I said. "Yes," he said. "And it would be a pretty poor father who would ask his little girl to carry such a load." It's the same way, Corey, with knowledge. Some knowledge is too heavy for children. When you are older and stronger, you can bear it. For now, you must trust me to carry it for you. I read that for Desiree Shores.
All right, so I wasn't sure if I was going to come up or talk. There's obviously a lot to unpack as far as this situation goes, this issue goes, and I really do appreciate where people are coming from in terms of a religious standpoint or any reason where you may have a concern. And I do believe that the school should make reasonable accommodations to facilitate conscientious objection of content. That being said, as people have already referenced several times, one of the biggest benefits that we have as the international city, something that I benefited from as a virtual lifelong resident of Lorain, a product of Lorain City Schools, is the exposure to a diverse cast of people. I'm a white guy, in case you didn't notice. And it's real easy, we're tribalistic by instinct. It's really easy to arbitrarily define what is yours, what is normal, and to typically then view others outside of that as lesser. And that is something that takes hold. That's how prejudice, it's how hatred has risen up in so many different arbitrary ways. So I'm so grateful for the experience I had in Lorain City Schools, and in Lorain in general, where those erroneous patterns weren't able to take hold. Funny enough, one of the areas where I was probably shortchanged in that regard would be when it came to LGBTQ community members. That was still taboo, that wasn't talked about, and within a reason, I did have negative ideology kind of set in, or at least an apathy set in, and it took time as an adult working around members of that community to become more informed and to kind of undo, for lack of a better word, the damage or the disservice that I had when I was younger. So it was an opportunity that overall I'm very grateful for my time in Lorain schools, but it's something that I wish I had had more exposure to. On top of that, when we're talking about the burdens that are on children, that's not inaccurate. And unfortunately, in a city like Lorain, teachers are already going way above and beyond teaching and trying to help compensate for any number of issues that our children and their families are dealing with socially, economically, et cetera. they're just harsh realities. They are too heavy for children, but they are the reality. We can't change that. When we talk about LGBTQ, it's the same thing. It is a reality that we have to face and that we should at least empower our teachers to address when they are willing and able to. Anything less of that would be a disservice to our children. To the best of my knowledge, nobody's talking about teaching it in a curriculum. When we talk about the ages that it should or shouldn't be done, I can appreciate that to a large extent, and yet there are documented situations of transgender, homosexuality, kids feeling different, knowing that they're different at a very young age, younger than 5. It's documented. So as much as it sounds good to say, oh, we don't need to worry about it until later on, that does apply to plenty of kids. That doesn't mean it applies across the board. And we should empower our teachers to address those respective students if and when the situation arises. And that's my understanding of what's being done with this resolution. So I think that's all I want to say for now. Well, one other thing, I guess. There is a religious component to this. And when you talk about Christianity, there was a time when Christianity was this shameful, hated group. It was something that was talked about in secret. It was a very dark period. And I find it ironic, among other probably harsher things, for people from that demographic to consider inflicting that same fate on any other demographic. And that's really what we're talking about when we're saying you can't talk about these things. You're coming, whether you base it on religious or really all the more so, if you're basing it on religion, that flies in the face of your own experience, of your own history, where you guys are now fortunate enough where you are able to speak freely. And we do that. We have prayer groups. I'm fine with that. However, to even consider inflicting that on some other demographic, a marginalized demographic with horrifying rates of suicidal ideation, suicidal attempts, it's deeply disturbing. So I do support the resolution. Hopefully this is reasonably coherent. Thank you.
Hello. So I too am a lifelong Lorain resident. I have one graduate, 2 currently attending Lorain schools, 1 in middle school and 1 in elementary. My younger 2, even my oldest, but my younger 2 especially, are in an age where I have absolutely no idea what their sexual orientation is going to be. It's something that if they were in class and it was something they were curious about, or they felt like they trusted a teacher enough to come to them, if they were afraid of people like the opposition that have spoke today, they may not want to speak up. So I want them to be comfortable to do that with a teacher and an admin position, a volunteer, somebody that's trusted within the Lorain City Schools. And I find it hard to believe that some people in the opposition have actually even read House Bill 616, because it absolutely does speak on teachers discussing homosexual relationships specifically. Now, what if that teacher is a homosexual? What if that teacher is a man and has a husband, or is a woman and has a wife? Is that person not allowed to speak on their spouse, on their children, on their life, on themselves? Is that not okay? Okay, and then also I want to remind everyone that this is not a parochial school. This is not a religious school. This is a public school, okay? And there are places for people who have such sheltered ideology that they don't want their kids to know that gay people exist. This isn't one of them, and I'm very grateful for that. Also, because another reason why I don't think that many of the opposition have actually read House Bill 616 is because they are threatening to defund us even further. So it's kind of funny that that was even brought up. If a teacher or school district, someone within that school district is caught speaking about those parts of the bill that are restricted, they will take our money. It is in the very end of the bill, and they will defund us even further. So I can't even imagine how you can be okay with that. And for you to bring up funding, like, that just doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. I wanted to say that I'm in 100% support of this bill, 100% against House Bill 616, House Bill 327, and I am very grateful for the open minds that are at the table today.
One second, please. We went past the 30-minute. Would the board like to vote to extend this? Or, I mean, we do have another second hearing of the public after we do business. Okay, do I have a motion to extend?
What? I'd like to make a motion that we move the second hearing of the public to right now, rather than at the end of the meeting when it's after the fact.
Second? Do we have a second?
So, the motion to suspend the order.
Motion to
Suspend the order.
suspend the order and put the second hearing of the public right now.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Ferguson, right?
Yeah,
Second from,
I think Barbie second. Roll call.
okay. Mr. Ferguson,
Yes.
Ms. Washington,
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Mrs. Aria.
Yes.
Just to make this a little more user-friendly, how about we sign in ahead of time, so we don't have to stare at you while you're, so anybody else wants to come in, please do.
No, whenever they start speaking.
So again, when Parker's done signing in, if you're interested in speaking, please just go fill your name out.
I don't think we.
For those of you that don't know me, I'm Parker Kapranica. I just graduated a few months ago, currently now an employee here at Lorain City Schools.
Hey, Parker, you're a trained professional.
As I am. I would love to firmly express my support for the resolution. In my opinion, the bill is blatantly racist, homophobic, and goes against everything we stand for and say we stand for here at Lorain High. Inclusivity, a safe place, all of these things that we preach, and equity, and all of those things. That's the exact antithesis of what this bill is. For me personally, I attended Catholic school for a number of years, and after transferring here about halfway through my freshman year, I can say it has impacted me phenomenally. And that comes from, in large part, some phenomenal teachers who opened my views on many, many things. And what this bill does is it blocks that. It blocks that ability, and it puts teachers at risk for creating a safe space. That's really all I had to say. I just wanted to extend my support for the resolution.
My name's Donovan Wysocki. I'm a student here at Lorain High. It's my first year, sophomore. I'm sorry, I'll be junior next year.
Next week.
I'm also in full support of the resolution. I'm queer myself, pansexual, non-binary. I have a cool pin. And people should know that queer people exist. They should be able to talk about it freely. And I don't know, that's just kind of it.
Shorter. Good evening. My name is Mrs. Rios. I am a kindergarten teacher here at Lorain City Schools. Very proud to be for almost 7 years now. And I just wanted to just reiterate to all the board members and leaders of our school that we're not asking you to pick a side. I think that shouldn't be. We're not asking you to pick a side, which one's better or who knows better or who's right. I think from the beginning, we were just so thankful that you were able to listen to us. We might not understand the reasons on either side, and that's why we can't ask you to just pick one side. Like we said, we want to work together, and we want to propose something that is fair to everyone. My concern is that if as adults we're trying to have this conversation, which I'm very proud everyone has been very respectful and in sharing, but I am concerned that even as adults, if we're sharing and we're talking and we're already using words as calling others hateful or phobic, then I am concerned how are we going to lead these conversations in the classroom so that no group, not one or the other, feels isolated or condemned or ashamed. We don't want no one to feel that way. We want everyone to come to school with the ability to learn and feel loved and feel accepted. But my concern is that are we really trained to have these conversations without pushing one idea or the other on our students? I don't think they need that. I think we could still be supportive. We could still be loving. We could still be accepting. That is what we believe too. And so I don't think that we are just today, I don't think that we can lead those conversations in a way where both sides are honored in the same way. And so that is my concern, and that's why we have to be very careful on how we're going to lead that and how everyone is going to be held accountable to have conversations in a safe way where no one feels marginalized, no matter what group you're in. Because again, we're not gonna always understand. We might think we know, we might think we understand, but we really might not. And so, again, let's do it in a safe way. Let's do it in a way that is fair to everyone, so everyone feels accepted and loved, and everyone has a safe environment to be educated without creating the divisiveness in our classrooms. And so that's just some of the concerns I wanted to share, and just, again, reiterate that we are just asking for common ground. If someone does not feel comfortable talking about something or teaching something, then no one should be obligated to do so. And I think that is fair based on what we always say for our schools, that everyone is welcome here. If that is true, then we should have common ground so everyone feels the same way. So again, I'm not asking you to pick a side. I'm just asking you to propose something that is more clear, because our resolution is not clear. It does specifically say teaching, and I do not want to. And that is my choice. And I will still do a heck of a job in my classroom, and I will prepare my kindergarten students for success every single day. And I will love every single one of them, and you have my word. That doesn't matter where I stand. My kids don't have to know my opinion. They need my they need my love, they need my acceptance, and they need me to show up every day to give them the best that I got, and that's what they will receive. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Stacey Vore, and I'm a teacher here at Lorain High. I think, and I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, I'm going to speak because I keep hearing as if we are going to teach lessons in the classroom, in every single room. No one is asking any teacher to speak about anything that they feel uncomfortable with. And trust me, as a teacher who has taught transgender, gay, lesbian students for years, they're not going to ask you if you're uncomfortable. They're not the teacher, you're not the teacher they're going to go to. They're going to go to the teacher that they know is comfortable talking to them about these things. And the biggest concern that I have is there are other states that have put in similar House bills where schools are being disciplined because they had something transgender in their library. They're being disciplined because the school district gave them a PD on LGBTQ topics or on diversity. I'm not saying that every teacher in Lorain should be talking to their kids about things. If you're not comfortable talking about something, no one should talk about something that they religiously or ethically feel is wrong. But I don't want someone to come into my room and say, Ms. Vore, I've got 2 moms and so-and-so said XYZ about it, which happened last year, and not be able to talk to that child. I don't want a young man to come in and say, that gay guy's looking at me again. If he keeps looking at me like that, and not be able to take him aside and have a conversation with that child. When we're talking about these situations, we're not talking about teaching a lesson. I'm not teaching a lesson on LGBTQ. But when my student comes to me asking a question, I want to be able to answer them or seek the resources they need without punishment. And that's all this resolution is about. Thank you.
Mr. President, could I make a statement?
Please.
As a member of the Lorain Academic Distress Commission that worked diligently with my esteemed colleagues to return local control to Lorain City Schools, it is an important aspect to keep the local interest of our community protected with our locally elected Board of Education and a superintendent that would work for the betterment of the children of Lorain. With that, I want to express my gratitude to the Board of Education and Dr. Graham for continuing to attempt to get out in front of some of the inaccurate perceptions that we see across America and in our state that attempt to disparage public education. Last week, I had the pleasure of having a conversation with Tim Ryan, a candidate for U.S. Senate in Ohio, at an educator roundtable event about combating the damning words we often hear from certain entities about the attempted indoctrination perpetuated by our schools. And I brought up to him how recently our former president slammed American teachers for what he labeled our Marxist, far-left, woke agenda, saying we teach children to hate America, we teach critical race theory, we promote sexual orientations with our students, and that the Department of Education should be disbanded. I am disturbed educators in our country are continually attacked, disrespected, and accused of doing things that are frequently not true. This might just be one of the many reasons why our nation is facing a greater teacher shortage with each passing day. Mr. Ryan complimented Lorain's Board of Education, and in his opinion, he felt the best way to combat deceptive accusations are to push back with the truth and the basic principles of what we stand for as Americans. As educators, we continue to strive to do what is best for our students and our communities. I commend this Board of Education for their proactive approach in such areas as teachers not carrying guns in the classroom and their approach in dealing with House Bill 616, 322, and 327, as districts focus on how to deal with divisive concepts, current events, sexual orientation, historical examinations of race and diversity, and discussions of wide-ranging topics, and without fear of punishment for teachers that goes along with that. With today's resolution, I believe the Lorain Board of Education is taking the lead in saying we are going to respect the diversity of our community and our schools, and that they should not be driven by fear, but by a true perspective of common sense and what is best for the students of Lorain. Thank you.
Before we close this tonight, I just want to reiterate one paragraph here. For those here tonight and those watching from home, please know that we will be leaning into these discussions more deeply with our faith-based leaders with the intent of sharing what is and isn't being taught in our schools. And I would like to thank everybody for coming tonight and appreciate your opinion. And Mrs. Ward, thank you. That was elegant.
It just disturbed me that so many people thought we were forcing something on them.
I'd like to say something very, very briefly, and I know this is not my time to talk, but I know folks will be leaving here in a couple seconds. And I just want to say, Stacy, as always, you were a step ahead of me and said it better than I was going to, but those were the phrases and the words that I was latching onto. We're not obligating anybody to do anything that is against their spiritual beliefs. But we want to make sure that our kids, when they come to the Lorain City Schools, they know they're not only loved, but they're accepted, respected, safe, and supported in who they are. And we also want to make sure that our teachers feel safe in supporting our children in the way they feel best. There's nothing in the resolution that dictates that we will practice any differently than we have been well, off and on for the past 7 years. We just want to make sure that folks know where we stand. So thank you very much.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Mrs. Zario.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Washington.
Yes.
Is there any old business? Being none, report recommendation of the treasurer.
I have item 8.01 for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Nazario.
Yes.
Ms. Washington.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Report recommendations of the superintendent personnel matters.
And first of all, I want to apologize. When you asked me if we had any visitors in the audience, we have Councilman Mitch Fallis out in the audience. I apologize for missing you earlier. I don't see very well, and there was a lot of people, so thanks for coming, Mitch. Also, a couple announcements here real quick. First of all, Wednesday night, and again, spirit of not being able to see very well, Wednesday night we have our back-to-school event, 4 to 8 at Black River Landing. Everybody's welcome. We have a lot of school folks will be there, games, free food, free school supplies, celebration of the new school year, and again, just a chance for everybody to get together and hug it out. And Mary, can you hear me? I know you said the microphones weren't working. We're good? Okay, thanks. So if I'm yelling into my mic, that's why. I just want to make sure the folks in the back can hear. Most of our students start on August 17th, but check the website because we do have staggered start. We did that last year for our 6th graders and our freshmen. It worked out great, so it's a tradition that looks like we're going to keep. And again, somebody mentioned the arts getting cut and because of funding pieces in the past. We're going to be full-blown with the arts this year. Expanded fine arts, music, theater, dance, and robotics. So again, our goal is to engage our children in all the ways they want to be engaged in the school district. We'll also provide free school supplies, busing service, and if Cindy is still here, I told her I wasn't going to do much, but I'm going to address most of her questions because that's the basic piece of what we're doing. But we do have high school students will be transported this year. In previous years, it was just pre-K 8. So our high school students will have access to more transportation opportunities in the past. But right now, the update on where we are, we have the Auxilio's buses are the buses that are on our front lot right now. There's 41 of them, and I believe as of today, they've had 6 that have been approved. Now, I think the way it was phrased earlier is, do they know what they're doing? Buses were purchased in other states, and most of them came from Michigan, and Michigan and Ohio have different rules. And the way it was explained to me, there's a checklist of things that have to exist and have to happen and have to be done in a certain way. And I think that Michigan has 58 pages and we have 135 pages. So there's more expectations when you come to Ohio. The Highway Patrol was here last week, and when they were expecting to do a lot of buses, they brought in inspectors from all over the state, and Auxilio wasn't ready to present any more buses. So it's 6, and I believe the State Highway Patrol plans on coming back next Wednesday for them. Based on conversations I've had with many, we needed a plan B. So we did purchase $2.4 million worth of buses and vans that should be enough to transport our students. Buying buses is tough right now, but we found somebody, and the buses were all not brand new, but pretty close, and for a school bus, for all intents and purposes, brand new. Most of them are 20s and 21s with between 25,000 and 60,000 miles on them. School buses last for 30 years and get hundreds of thousands. So again, we've got our own fleet if we need it. We're still planning on Auxilio doing the work. If not, we have a plan B, and we also have a plan C that if that doesn't work. So we are doing some things, but in the post-COVID world, things are different. And again, this is not going as quickly as we had hoped, candidly. But to answer some of the questions, which are, we do have our own router. Our routes are done. We do have a routing coordinator and a transportation supervisor that has been and will be in charge of all routes moving forward. And our current transportation director and our current business manager combined have about 25 years worth of transportation experience, all with the Parma City schools, which is about twice our size. And I think that if I'm looking right in the camera, which one am I looking into, Joe? All right, this one. The bus drivers, the information of $21 an hour was not accurate. I believe it's $24 an hour. So if you are willing and able and want to come help out, we'd love to have you. So please reach out to our Human Resources Department or look online. And our software, we do have it as Traversa. Okay, so I'd like the board to consider for approval items 9.01 to 9.08 personnel matters.
Just observation, I see two
please.
more of my former students on there and several Lorain City Schools graduates. Welcome home.
Keep them coming, that's right.
So are you making a motion?
I will move to accept.
I will second.
Roll call.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Ms. Washington.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Nazario.
Yes.
And just one quick story on the staffing side of this. We hired a teacher who came in, and jump in, Ross, if I'm messing this up, flew in from Arizona, who had just graduated to interview for a position here, fell in love with the city, just brought his suitcases and found a place to live, and he's just waiting for his first check to get a car. So, but the way he phrased it was, he found a home, and he fell in love with Lorain in just that short period of time and doesn't want to be anywhere else. So again, that's a statement to the folks we have in this room and in our community. And I know a lot of folks mentioned they've been here and left and came back and been here forever. And short time, it's been a home, and I feel the exact same way. I've here off and on for 7 years. Couldn't buy a house quick enough, and thanks for saving me a seat. But it's just a good story about people appreciating who we are. I'd like to make a motion for the board to consider for approval of items 10.01 to 10.32, operations matters.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Nazario.
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Washington.
Yes.
Board recommendations, other matters?
I'm done.
You're done? Any new business? Committee reports and requests from board members. Get a second here, the public. The next board meeting will be,
What about item 13?
Item, I make a motion for item 13.01, approval of a resolution in opposition to any divisive concept legislation, including House Bill 322, House Bill 327, and House Bill 616.
who's second?
Second, and I like to speak for a minute.
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about this, and I am not the only one in this room, and I appreciate everyone on, I hate to call it sides, because I don't think we're on opposite sides. I think we're expressing things differently. This resolution, and I've read it and worked to edit it with some people, and it was run through the OSBA, is in opposition and in protection of our students and our teachers. There is nothing in here that is going to change the curriculum in any way, shape, or form. No teacher will be expected to instruct at all in any issue that is mentioned in this. Rather, it protects them if the issue comes up or is brought to them. Age appropriate, I heard several times, and I am 100% in support of that concept. And if someone finds something that is being aged inappropriately or brought to a classroom inappropriately, I bring it to us, and I will lead the charge with you so that we make sure that we are conducting our business correctly. You are correct. Young students are not thinking about heterosexual or homosexual relationships. Young students are kids. Young students sometimes ask questions. When they do, they deserve answers, and this is only to protect our people. This resolution is the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We are not trying to force anyone to accept a position or I'm at a loss for a word, but we are not trying to support or to expect anyone to go anywhere they are not comfortable. That is not the purpose of this intent, of this resolution. No one in this district at any level should be teaching alternative lifestyles any more than they should be teaching racism, which is addressed in another one of these resolutions. That is inappropriate. This is inclusive, intentionally inclusive. We are not trying to be divisive. The intention is totally the opposite. We want to make sure that everyone has a seat at the table and is comfortable at that seat. And we are not expecting to put anyone in a position where they have to act against their beliefs. That is very important. I am very, very, very passionate on this subject for a lot of personal reasons. I grew up in Lorain. I retired from Lorain schools. I still reside here, and I feel your passion, and I want you to understand that your passion is noted, and we agree with you. We don't want to put anybody in the position that you are referring to. And with that, I heartily move that this resolution be passed.
I would like to make a couple comments. This resolution came kids first. Kids need to be welcome. Kids need to feel safe. Kids' feelings, kids' safety. Kids need to feel that first. We need to make sure they feel safe and welcome first. If you are an adult and working in the building and you are uncomfortable when they come to you, then please find somebody else that feels comfortable talking to them. If you don't know how to answer their question, if you don't know how to, if you don't feel comfortable answering them, please find someone else. A social worker, a counselor, another adult. I support staff, I support teachers. I hope you guys know that by now. That's how I got to the seat at the table. But kids have to come first. I sort of agree with Mr. Ferguson, but I believe kids have to come first. I also want to say that I sat down with, I won't name names so we don't call people out, but I sat down with many people in this room and a couple times, and I made myself available. I gave you my phone number, and I gave you my email, and I said, please call me. Please call me. Let's try to work on this. And so I did try to make myself available. We did run this by OSBA. We are doing what the nation is doing, not just Columbus, not just Ohio, but this is in alignment of what other states and what the nation is doing. We are trying to protect our kids, and we are trying to protect educators. We want to make sure that every single person feels included and is safe to learn about history and to be themselves. And I appreciate all of your thoughts, and I am, I thank the board for making the motion, and thank you, Mr. Ferguson, for seconding the motion.
I just want to say quickly, when one of our teachers tonight say, I want to be able to talk to my students, that makes me sick as a teacher once, that a teacher cannot talk to her students, and that can happen in Ohio. And that is sickening, knowing that so many of our students have that relationship with our kids, and that is the only person that our kids can talk to. So when a teacher says, I just want to talk to my students, it makes me sick that that can be taken away from them. So I'm hoping that this message gets down to Columbus, and I'm hoping other schools will follow along, that we can get that message down so we don't take that right away from our teachers, which then will make our good teachers who want to talk to our kids that we need here in Lorain. I hope they don't leave this profession for that reason, because they are scared of losing their license if they talk to a student. That's it. Sorry for getting emotional once again.
So I'll add the polarization that's going on in this room is what's happening on a national level. And the real division, or I guess polarizing fight should be done in Columbus. That's where it's really being done to us and pitting us against each other. What I think I heard, and Bill, you addressed it, with us furthering the conversation within this community. Wish it had happened prior, because I'm hearing people say that they don't have a voice on how we arrived here. I know you did open it up for people to talk, and we've been to houses, we've had private meetings, and we know this is a very hot topic on all sides. And nobody here is here to win or lose or to pick a side, as I think Ms. Rios said. I hope that you all in this room continue to come, because we need this kind of input from our community. Because as you said, you guys entrusted us to do the job, but we have to know what you're thinking and how you're feeling on all sides to do a good job where everybody's voice is being heard. So I guess we should put that onus on you, Dr. Graham, to make sure that even after this vote is taken, however it falls tonight, we do a better job, or we expand our way of making sure that we're communicating before the cake is baked with the community. You can't bake the cake and then say, what kind of cake do you want? Because it's already out of the bag. Then, not accusing you of doing that at all. But let's make sure that as we're picking the ingredients, everybody has a voice. And we still may not all agree. We probably won't agree on this kind of a topic. But at least everybody feel as though they're being heard. And I think that would go a long way, knowing the community like I know this community. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
I just want to say one thing more, that I'm glad we have parents that care. I'm glad you showed up. There's people that should be here that aren't, okay? And at least you care enough to come. And that's, I think we've wanted that for a long time. Okay, so thank you. Roll call, please.
Ms. Washington.
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Nazario.
Yes.
Okay. Next board meeting will be August 22nd, 5 o'clock here. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Yes. So moved.
You get a second?
Second, I said second.
Okay.
And again, thank you everyone for coming.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Washington.
Yes.
Ms. Nazario.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
So it begins.
You can't get up before me. I'm the first one up.